Welcome back to my channel. I'm Exennial Ghost, and today I just want to give a short tour of my studio so that anybody tuning in can get a good idea of the tools that I'm using. It's not just to show off the cool things that I have. The name of my space is Black and Pink Studio, and I named it this because the carpet is literally black and pink. It has absolutely nothing to do with the fact that I lived in South Korea for 4 years and that I was there when a certain K-pop group came to prominence. The room here is just the extra bedroom, and when I moved in, it was covered in Cheerios and tiny little rubber bands. Now it's a glorious recording studio. The size is about 15 feet by 10 feet, which is not huge, but it's big enough. The way I have it laid out is that the drums are in the dead center, and I can walk around those 360 degrees. On one end, I have my keyboards, and on the other end, I have the guitars and the guitar amps. There's also a little table next to the drums where I can put my interface and my computer, and right next to that is the vocal booth, which is sound-wise the deadest space in the whole room. On that note, the soundproofing is entirely makeshift. Now, I'm a frugal guy and I like to do things for cheap. In this case, everything was free. On the walls, I have floor mats, which I got from work, cardboard, and egg cartons. On the windows are tinfoil covered cardboard, as well as sound absorbing curtains. On the ceiling, I have foam, which I got from an old air mattress that somebody left in the shed. Now you may be asking, does it work? More or less. The room tone is pretty flat, and I've never had the sound of a passing pickup on any recording yet. With instruments, I'm just as frugal. If I can get something for cheap, I will. I have 3 electric guitars. My main axe is an Ibanez Artcore semi-hollow body. I did buy this one new over a decade ago, which is the longest I've ever kept a guitar.
Going where there's no depression, to a better land that's free from care. I'll leave this world of toil and trouble. My home's in heaven, I'm going there.
My secondary guitars are an Epiphone Les Paul Jr.
Going where there's no depression, to a better land that's free from care. I'll leave this world of toil and trouble. My home's in heaven, I'm going there.
And a 1992 PV Predator. This is a Stratocaster knockoff, which I got at the Goodwill for only 80 bucks. And it sounds so 90s, I love it.
Going where there's no depression, to a better land that's free from care. I'll leave this world of toil and trouble. My home's in heaven, I'm going there.
The bass I use is a Gretsch Electromatic short scale, and I did buy this one new from Guitar Center as well because I like the way it played, which is more like a guitar.
Going where there's no depression, to a better land that's free from care. I'll leave this world of toil and trouble. My home's in heaven, I'm going there.
My primary amp is the 50-watt Boss Katana. Now, back in the day, I had maybe a dozen guitar pedals and I would line them all up when I played a show. But these days, I don't really want to spend that kind of money. This amp offers access to pretty much all of the effects that Boss makes and allows you to load 15 of them on the amp, 5 of which you can use at any given time. So I have a set of 60s effects, a set of 70s effects, and a set of 80s effects. Now I do mix and match them, but the main point is that I can dial in any kind of retro vibe I would like with ease. My secondary amp is a little Vox modeling amp. I mostly have it if I want to add some kind of novelty to my recordings. For the bass, I have a Fender Rumble 40. I bought this one locally on Facebook Marketplace. It has a nice sound and I can generally dial in any tone I want, but for the $80 I spent for it, it was definitely worth it. During the time that I spent abroad, I got really into synthesizers and electronic music. Of course, I couldn't take a full-size keyboard with me on the plane, so I only had those small MIDI keyboards to work with. So when I put together this studio, I really wanted to have a full-size keyboard, and the one I have here is a Casio semi-professional model. I bought this one locally on Facebook, again for $80. My other novel keyboard is a 1974 Baldwin Fun Machine, which you can see behind me. It's actually a compact electric organ. Any guess on how much I spent on this one?
$80.
Wrong. Only spent $30 on this one. From what I understand, this organ utilized some primitive synthesizer technology, so it actually sounds like kind of a crossover between a synth and an organ. All I know is that it can get pretty funky. Since this is a recording studio, it wouldn't really be complete without a set of microphones. And the mics that I have, I would consider to be kind of low-level professional microphones. I have two Shure SM57s, the workhorse mics which every studio has 3, 4, or 2 dozen sitting around. For vocals, I have the Shure SM58. Now, I don't consider myself the best singer by any means, but I've also struggled trying to find a microphone that can capture my voice appropriately. Now, not so ironically, this vocal mic seems to do the trick. For the kick drum, I have the Shure PGA 52, which I also sometimes use on the bass amp. And for overheads, I have the Aspen Pittman DT1 condenser microphone. This was something that was recommended on the Produce Like a Pro YouTube channel. And my other condenser microphone is the Audio-Technica AT2020, which I bought used from Guitar Center for around $80. My interface is the Volt 2 from Universal Audio. I bought this one because of all the vintage tones that it promised and all the cool freebie plugins that it came with. It sounds good, but to be honest, so far I just use it without all of the extra vintage spice. Now, I only recently upgraded to this interface from my old one, which was a Tascam US-122, which I bought 17 years ago. In 2006, when I first bought it, it was one of the only affordable desktop interfaces that were on the market, and it still works. And I just discovered that I can use it simultaneously with the Volt 2. That being said, it doesn't sound quite as crisp as it used to, which is the main reason why I finally upgraded. My DAW is Studio One Pro. I've been using this software for roughly a decade. I started with the free version and then worked up to the professional. For most of the recordings I'll be doing on this channel, at least initially, I'll be using a template I created which already has the basic mix, color-coded tracks, buses, and effects preloaded. For the drums, I'll be using a set of emulations of the Lindell 500 series hardware. This includes a preamp and a filter, a Pultec EQ, and a compressor. For all the other tracks, I'll be using an emulation of the Neve 80 series channel strip. This is a British classic which was used throughout the 1970s and beyond. On the buses, I'll be primarily using emulations of the Teletronics LA2 series limiting amplifiers. These are something that came free with the Volt interface. For effects, like many other people, I prefer the Valhalla series of reverbs and delays. I have most of the ones they make. On the master or mix bus, I'll be topping everything off with a reel-to-reel emulation from Kiev Audio. I've tried using other analog tape emulations before, but most of them are meant to give tracks a lo-fi sound. This one is very clean and hi-fi, and it's just what I need for the final mix. All of these plugins will hopefully help produce that analog vibe I mentioned in my intro video. On the modern side, one of the reasons I eventually upgraded to the Pro version of Studio One was because it came with a mastering suite. Initially, this helped me keep the levels on my albums more consistent from song to song. But now I have a few mastering plugins that should help me deliver a more competitive final product all around. One is the AMEC 250 EQ. This is a very modern equalizer with mid-side capabilities. Now, thinking in terms of mid-side instead of stereo is something I only came across recently. The stereo mix is only thinking in terms of left and right channel, but mid-side splits the audio field into left, center, and right. Now, I'm a photographer as well, and I'm familiar with the rule of thirds in visual terms, but mid-side creates its own kind of rule of thirds in audio terms. The next plugin is the Pro Audio DSM V3. This is a new style of multi-band compressor, expander, and limiter. The reason I got it was because you can capture the dynamics of a professionally mastered commercial recording and then apply it to your own recording. The final plugin is the Brainworks MasterDesk Classic. This is another freebie that came with the Volt interface, and you can do several things with this, but I will primarily be using it for the volume control. This allows the volume to get competitively loud without distorting or clipping, so it must be some kind of brick wall limiter. Now, I was never a believer in the whole volume wars that plagued the industry 20 years ago, but my final songs have never matched the volume of any commercial recording by any stretch. These three plugins together will hopefully give my recordings a modern shine at the final master stage. Thanks again for tuning in. This is Exennial Ghost disappearing into the snowy white ether of time.